One episode? One freaking episode? We're starving for content here. And I get one episode from Warner Brothers on the press, on the press application? Oh my gosh. I was so annoyed when I saw that. I actually wrote back to my contact and I was like, I believe there's been a mistake. You've only given me one episode. And they were like, we're only giving one episode at a time for season 2. And I'm still not over it. I'm really upset about it, okay? I mean, look, for Harley Quinn season 1, I'll admit, I was spoiled. They gave the press all 13 half-hour episodes at once because they wanted us to fall in love with the show. And we did! I don't think anybody gave it a bad review. I particularly have been pushing this show because it was such a great experience. I binged all those episodes in a 24-hour period. That is the fastest I have ever watched a show. And I felt very bad for all of you that you had to get it just one episode a week. But I didn't know how you were truly suffering until Warner Brothers put me right there with you. Oh, this is rough. It would be like getting one episode of Glow at a time, right? I mean, even The Mandalorian, another streaming show with a painfully slow release schedule. If you're in Europe and you just got Disney+, for some reason, they're also releasing that show like at the same slow rate that they did when it debuted here in the United States, even though it's already, all the episodes already came out somewhere. So now Europe has to go through it. It's crazy. But at least those episodes are like a tad longer. Not much longer, but when you're getting a slow drip of what you love, you'll take all the extra drops you can get. Oh, this is rough. I'm parched for Harley Quinn, and I know they have more. It's a special circumstance with the coronavirus and lockdown over the entire globe. Why wouldn't they give us all the episodes? All right, so, again, Warner Brothers gave me just one episode for press to review, and that makes it very hard for me to review. Every show, every single show, gives press at least the first 3 episodes. For streaming shows, like Netflix usually gives me half or not, or sometimes all, usually all, but sometimes half. Like for The Witcher, they gave me half, but before the show started, they gave me everything. So I would watch it in 2 parts. And that's so as a reviewer, I can tell you whether or not this gets, where it goes, if it's worth your time as a long investment. That's the reason that you do it. Even the first 3 episodes, that at least gives me a chunk to get a feel for the series. But I couldn't do that here. In fact, I had to rewatch the episode because I was like, what am I going to say about it? Because I don't want to have any spoilers. Don't worry, there are no spoilers in this review. Now, why is this happening to us? Well, there's the excuse that if you do 1 episode a week, more people will talk about it. And, there were all these headlines. They were like, the Mandalorian conversation is continuing for longer than anyone else. It kind of worked out with the Mandalorian, to be fair. But more people have Disney+. DC Universe apparently has a very small subscribership. So nobody ever talks about these damn shows once they air. Everyone talks about the trailer because anyone can watch that. The trailers, same thing for Titans, same thing for Doom Patrol. But no one ever talks about the shows because no one's watching the shows. So I think the real culprit here, at least in this case with DC Universe content, is that damn 7 free day trial, right? They're like, they don't want you to binge everything and then cancel your subscription, which of course a lot of people would do. But you know what? DC Universe has been around for over a frickin' year now, right? So get rid of the 7 free day trial. That's a ridiculously long trial at this point. I mean, look out for the people who are paying for your service. And DC Universe is not cheap. And there's, quite frankly, not very much on it. I mean, I know there's technically a lot on it, but there's not enough really, I think, to justify the price point, except for shows like this. But then they eke them out, and you gotta wait. It's so frustrating. Look after the people who are paying. Because you know what they're gonna do? Everyone's just gonna wait. This is what many of you do. You just wait till the series runs its course, then you sign up for the 7 free day trial, and they still don't get your money. So why not just, you're gonna do that anyway, why not at least benefit the rest of us so we can binge it when it debuts? It's pretty obvious. All right, so how was the first episode of season 2? Well, I have mixed feelings, to be honest with you. And I don't know if it gets better, because I only saw 1 damn episode. All right, so on the one hand, the show is still incredibly funny, like Venture Brothers level funny. This show is amazing. So funny. There's a goon versus hench joke that has stuck with me since I watched the episode a week ago. I don't remember how it came up again. I was reading either a comic or watching something on TV. Where else? I wouldn't be watching it anywhere else because of this lockdown. But I was like, oh yeah, that's like the Harley Quinn joke. Haha. And so it's funny. And when I watched the episode again, I still laughed at the jokes, even though I knew them, because they're really, really strong. And I also think the show continues to have very smart and fair commentary about women operating in groups of men. And any woman who's operating in groups of men would be like, this is real. This show's keeping it 100. From how it can be frustrating and unfair for some women like Harley Quinn, her experiences here, but then also how some women can be a bit of a wet blanket and don't make as big of an effort as they should to try and be part of the group, right? I mean, there's the big argument about how the group should change for the woman, but you're supposed to, everyone's, in any situation where there's a compromise, you're supposed to meet halfway. The famous saying of a good compromise is that nobody's happy with it, right? But there are some good jokes with here. Some of you will be upset about this, but it's, as I said, it's accurate and fair commentary. But there's some really funny gags about the one woman on Gordon's task force. I thought they were funny. They were a little insulting because I was like, why isn't she trying harder to get along with the group? But I have to admit they were funny because there are some women like that. But I also feel this episode went for some cheap jokes, which I didn't appreciate. I think in terms of both violence and being overly crude, in a way that made it seem like they were crutches for instead of having better writing. And since I know this show has amazing writing, I was like, don't cheapen yourself like that, Harley Quinn show. You're better than that. And in season 1, you never really needed to do it. I think at least it wasn't to the level it is here. It might have been 1 or 2 gags sprinkled out throughout the whole season, but this was, I would say 70%, no, 65% of the jokes are really strong, but 35, I think, are, a little bit, lame. They're trying too hard. Now, also what bothered me is that Harley seems to be acting out of character, at least in this show. There are a lot of versions of Harley at this point, which I've told you before I think is DC's problem. Marvel's pretty on model across platforms, but DC I like Elseworld stories, as we've discussed before, but they always have different versions of the same character, sometimes even within the same medium. Different versions in the comics, different versions in animation, and so everybody has a different favorite, and so it splinters the fan base and not everybody's on the same page. But I really like this version of Harley. As I've told you before, it's my favorite version of Harley Quinn since she debuted in the animated series. I think Kaley Cuoco does a fantastic job here. She still does very good voice work this episode. But the whole point of season 1 was Harley wanting to be recognized as a supervillain in her own right. But then suddenly here she's all about anarchy and no one being in charge. And she relates to the goons when she was never a goon. And if you had called her a goon, she would have gotten upset about it. But suddenly she's like, hey, I'm one of you guys. And she's not even putting that on. She seems to honestly believe it. So it just, again, it was a choice that it seemed like it was a choice that was made by the writers to go down this path. And to put Harley at a bit of a disadvantage going in. And that's frustrating because you can see the strings, so it doesn't feel organic. And again, it feels out of character from the character they so firmly and wonderfully established in season 1. There is more Bud and Lou, though, which we always appreciate, the 2 of them. You gotta have 2 hyenas. And also some very good swinging of her bat. I like Harley. I've come to really like her swinging a baseball bat. Although at the end she added nails to it, and I thought that was a little bit too much for Harley Quinn. I didn't like it. All right, but speaking of the Bat, Jacob Tremblay returns for a scene as Damian Wayne, and he nails it. So funny. And Mr. Freeze is a welcome addition to our rogues gallery with some very good gags of his own. Again, in just 24 minutes, so many funny jokes. And I don't know if Mr. Freeze has a South American or European accent. I'm not sure. I'm leaning towards Euro, but I'm excited to see what they do with his character. It's different. I like it. We've seen Mr. Freeze so many times at this point. This show really does a good job of making everything seem fresh. Although we all love Batman, so we don't have to worry about that much. As I told you, I like Elseworld stuff, and I like these versions of these characters. All right, so also, considering what's going on in the real world right now, right? This show doing its version of No Man's Land has a surprisingly ripped from the headlines feel, which they didn't count on when they made that choice, but this is where the show is kind of lucked out in some regard. Although, I never liked the No Man's Land story. I didn't like it in the comics. I didn't like it on Gotham when they tried to do it, and I'm worried about it here. I didn't even like it in The Dark Knight Returns when they kind of tried to do it, which I even forgot about. I blocked it out of my mind. I don't like it. I guess because I don't like anarchy. I'm not a fan of anarchy. I don't like it. I've never liked it. But if anyone can do it, it's this show, because I love this show so much and the people who make it. Also, things with Gordon got very weird very quickly. I was like, oh, I hope this goes somewhere good. And speaking of weird, there's a weird cut. I can't believe this. Towards the end of the episode, it comes like 2/3 in. You'll know it when you see it, because you're like, did the episode skip? They didn't. It didn't. It's just a weird cut. But they feel like they cut Ivy off, Poison Ivy, in mid-sentence, and you're like, I got really nervous. I was like, oh my God, was there like a technical snafu? I need all of this that I can get. Don't make me lose some. But it was just a really weird cut that I can't believe they let go through. I do continue to like Harley's Gang. I think it's a very eclectic group, which is, of course, very Harley. But I don't like Cy Borgman. I didn't like him in the comics, and I don't like him here. I don't care if Jason Alexander is voicing him. Probably one of the biggest names on this show. Although, maybe not. Tony Hale, Kaley Cuoco, those are big names in TV. But I was disappointed to see him and Clayface get the most screen time in Harley's Gang. Because my favorite members are Poison Ivy, Dr. Psycho, and King Shark. So I'm like, I don't want to look at these other characters. Also, I didn't like making Ivy the Felix Unger of the group, right? Speaking of a wet blanket. She felt a little off character to me as well. I did, though, already begin to see some Harley and Ivy romantic vibes in the mix. But what happened to Kite Man? I just feel like we skipped a few steps. I feel very disoriented by this episode. It's not enough, and I feel like I missed some stuff. Like I'm missing more content. I'm missing the other episodes for the season, but yet I feel like I didn't start at the beginning. So since I love it so much, it's very disorienting and upsetting. But that's how I feel. That's honestly how I feel. But it comes from a place of love, because I do love the show so much. All right, and I will watch it, of course. I'll watch it whatever way they can give it to me. And the way I'm going to cover it going forward is I'll do spoiler videos for like when Catwoman shows up and when Harley and Ivy start to really heat up as a couple. I'll cover that. And then I'll, of course, review the entire season when it wraps with a spoiler review. But this is a mess starting out. I hope maybe they change their mind and give us all the episodes. They have them. Give it to me now. All right, so what do you think? Share your thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.